China's imports are exceeding its exports of rice for the first time in recent history. Part of the reason for that is growing demand for rice and the grain it's feeding to poultry. First Grain's Milo Hamilton discussed this development and what it could mean for U.S. rice producers in the Rice Educational Marketing Seminar at the Mid-South Farm and Gin Show, which was held virtually this year.
And in this chart, we have plotted imports, net trade, and milled exports from China alone, which is the largest producer and consumer of rice. And what you can see here is that we have turned down in the pace of exports, and we have turned up in the pace of imports. And now imports exceed exports for the first time in quite a while. And as we go down the line, we may see an acceleration of this. If they continue to chew up large amounts of rice for feed, it won't take too long for them to get their stocks down, whatever they actually are. So that's good news for society. Let's get back and look at the last 2,000 years since the time of Christ. From the time of Christ until 1950, the big Western powers have been grabbing more and more of the world wealth and GDP. That would be the United States, Europe, and the Soviet Union, and Canada. And after 1950, Asia has come on strong, particularly China, and is reversing that trend. And they're starting to go back to where they were at the time of Christ, which I think is interesting. And the three big ones, Japan, India, and China, are very rice sensitive. They're very oriented towards rice. So the popularity and perception and rice in the news will only grow. There's a company out of Japan that has produced a rice flour that's in every way as good as wheat, but it has no gluten and it cooks up quicker for industrial and food service purposes. You're going to see rice become more and more of an ingredient, in my judgment, as we move down the line. If you look back in time, the United States in 80 years tripled its GDP. China did it in 41 years from 1969 to 2010. And now India is a question mark. If they can get the reform that they're trying to have in their agriculture, then you're going to see large changes. You're going to see a shift over the next 2 years from food grains into oilseeds, which is really their deficit. So if they can handle that correctly, this heavy export pressure from India will go away and allow the Western Hemisphere to do the same thing it did for soybeans, and that is to sell to the world market without the crushing pressure of India selling rice in the world market. They'll still sell it, but it won't be as intense as it is right now. Asia has generally done a better job, that's Japan, China, and India, than the Western Hemisphere in terms of deaths and death rates. That is beginning to turn now as we're beginning to get people vaccinated. So that's the good news. And interestingly enough, China, although it has very few incidents of death from pandemic in those countries, they are finding it difficult to move ahead and inoculate their people. Only 4% of the Chinese population has been inoculated. And the question arises, if you don't have a lot of death from the disease, why would someone waste the time to get a vaccine? And so they're having trouble convincing people it's the thing to do. Whereas here, you see people in the hospital and dying every day. So it's not difficult to get the US to take the vaccine. So it's gone from a big economic advantage to the three giants of rice in Asia. It's swinging back this way, and it could continue to swing back. The pandemic is like the markets. It doesn't stay stable.